This is Larry Tobias, even though my picture again says Judy. I never have figured out how to change that, but we won't get into that discussion. Anyway, just to let all the members know, Jim has some issues dealing with personal matters. And so he has asked me to chair the meeting today as vice chair. So that is what I will be doing, is I will be the chairperson for this meeting today. It is 1 p.m. according to my computer, and so I would like to call the meeting to order at this point. And we just need to verify that we have a quorum to conduct the meeting. Let's see, Rick was going to check that. Let's see, where's Jessica at?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Yes, we definitely have a quorum. I can go through the list of names of everybody I've seen if you'd like, or we can confirm there's I believe 13 on the line.
Well, why don't you go ahead and run through everybody that you have identified so that we can get it on the record.
Okay, give me one moment here. There was one that popped in. I want to make sure I got him here. Okay, so going down the line here, and if I miss you at the end, just give me a heads up. I can see Scott Barnhart, Tamara Dipner, Karen Aspelin, Joan Lucia Treese, Ed, Ann Ash, Craig Gooding, Steve Hart, Ann Nichols, Carlos Perez, Rick Hoover, Larry Tobias, Richard Robertson, Rick. Is there anybody that I missed on the line? I didn't say your name. I saw Gail and Brian also on the line as well.
It looks like Dave Zelenock is attempting to connect into the system.
Okay, perfect. Got it noted. There we go. Let me mute them. Okay. Friendly reminder, now that we're all back on Zoom here together, if you aren't speaking, go ahead and mute yourself. That way we can't hear your background noise. You can turn off your camera if you find that it's lagging a little bit. Sometimes that helps. When making a motion, make sure to state your name so that we capture it in the recording for the minutes. And with that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Dwight.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. The next item I'd like to bring up is we do have a quorum, Rick. So we are moving on. So if I could have you read the purpose that we have for our organization here, please.
Certainly. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure that the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters at the November 2, 2004, November 6, 2012, and November 7, 2017 ballot measures are accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the PPRTA Board of Directors.
All right, thank you. Next item, we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Scott Barnhart. I move to approve the agenda.
This is Joan. I second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye or thumbs up or whatever. To
Aye.
identify.
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any objections to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved unanimously. Next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have any individuals, either within the group or outside the group, that have any type of public comment that they would like to make at this time? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from the January 5th, 2022 meeting. Everyone has had a chance, hopefully, to review them either in hard copy or on your computer. At this point, does anyone have any comments or questions concerning the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of
I
the
will
January?
move. It's Joan. Move the minutes be approved as presented.
Do I have a second?
This is Tamara Dipner, I second.
Okay, Joan and Tamara. Joan is a move for approval. Tamara is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the minutes of the January 5th, 2022 meeting have been approved unanimously. Financial reports. Bev,
Okay, can everybody hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So in November, we received 12,226,000, which was almost 697 above the monthly budget, or 7% on page 1. And on page 2, let's see, move down to that. All righty. So we were 1,913,000 over last November's. So we're still doing really well. I'm real curious to see what December is going to bring. So are there any questions on the rest of the financials?
All right.
Okay.
Hearing none. Thank you, Bev.
Thanks.
All right. Item number 6A, capital maintenance and public transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs.
Hello, Mr. Chair. This is Gail Suderman, the City of Colorado Springs, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director. I am going to leave my video off because I too am having some Wi-Fi challenges today. So I apologize for that. The City of Colorado Springs is going to be presenting 8 contracts today for the CAC's discussion and a hopeful recommendation to the board for approval. The first contract is for the 2022 minor bridge inspection project with the city's bridge asset management program and plan, and with best practices in the industry. We go through and we do inspections every 2 years in our major bridges and every 4 years for our minor bridges. This particular contract's for our minor bridges. The city right now has 229 minor bridges, and we are going to be partnering with the city's Parks Department to have this same crew do the inspections on their 75 pedestrian bridges. The total contract value would be for $298,560, split with Pprta covering $218,556 using maintenance funds, with the remaining $80,000 coming from the city's Parks Department. This team from Basis was selected off through RFPs and our on-call contracts. Any questions on that particular item?
Gail, this is Larry. What do you classify as a minor bridge?
Yeah, so there's actually a distinct definition of what that is, but there are bridges that are less than 20 feet in width and greater than 4 foot in length. So a lot of times our culverts, and in fact, one of the other contracts I'm going to talk about today are going to be lining corrugated metal pipe or reinforced concrete pipe. Those are in most cases, those are some of our minor structures.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll move on to our second contract. Speaking of the lining, the second contract is for, it's going to cover 2 areas through Pprta. One is the companion drainage improvements, which is a ALIS program, and then Pprta maintenance. This is to install CIPP, which is cured in place pipe lining materials under 7 roads in 17 locations. We went through an RFP process and we had 4 respondents. The total contract value for this would be for $2,282,707, of which $1,886,707 would come from maintenance funds, and the other $414,000 would come from the capital program. We're recommending that this contract be awarded to Granite Inliner. Any questions on that particular item? All right, I'm going to move on then to contract 3. The city of Colorado Springs is bringing forth a change order for our design engineering firm AECom to cover the 2 projects on South Academy reconstruction, the north phase, which is that Bijou Street to Airport Road segment, and then the south phase, which is the Fountain Boulevard to Milton Proby Parkway. This change order covers additional utility location and design work for utility and storm sewer conflicts. It also includes the right-of-way acquisition for the southern phase and covers anticipated engineering services needed during construction. The total value of this change order is $931,101. And we would be splitting that between those 2 projects. With the north phase, it would be the $307,264. And the southern phase would be $623,837. Any questions there? All right, moving on, staying on the South Academy, or yes, South Academy reconstruction. We went through an RFP process to get construction management services. We're proposing to award at least the north segment right now, which is that Bijou to Airport Road piece, to AECom. We had 5 respondents and they were selected as being the most qualified to perform the work. The way this contract is set up, that we have the option of adding in the south segment once we get a construction contract on board and see how that's going to work, make sure it's in the best interest for the city. The contract or initial contract award would be for $1,362,164.50. Any questions there? All right, I'm going to go on to the next one. Our 5th contract is for program and construction management software. As we've talked about in the past, that the city used Pprta funds to purchase what is Centric as a program management software early on in the early 2000s or mid 2000s for management of Pprta projects. We've known that that software was no longer going to be supported. It's more at that license-based or seat-based software. And like I said, it's no longer supported. The city's been going through an extensive RFI and RFP process to come up with a new vendor for software. We, after getting 12 formal respondents, we have made a selection for Arrigo to provide this program and construction management software. As you can see in the memo, not only does the city intend to use this for Pprta projects, but we plan on using it for non-Pprta projects that are managed by city engineering, but also the Parks Department and the Stormwater Enterprise. We're asking that the total amount of the initial contract for this to be the purchase and the first year subscription, the migration, and everything to really get us up and running would be for $276,857, of which the Pprta portion would be $182,857. This software, I don't know that I mentioned it, is cloud-based, and it has the ability to go from basically supporting 75 people to up to 250 people. And those can be modified as needed based on usage. So it gives us a lot more flexibility and adaptability in the future. And then we will be bringing annual costs for renewal, and this will be a 5-year contract. The annual subscription is likely going to be totaling $110,000, of which we would anticipate future The PPRT portion of that would be $66,250 in years 2 through 5 each. But today we're just asking for approval for the initial procurement, installation, and integration into our systems. Any questions there? All right, moving on to our next one. We've got 3 Black Forest Road items for you. This is getting very exciting for us to finally see this project get going. The first one is our last large real estate purchase. It's from the Woodman Land Development Corporation, and you will see there is an exhibit in your packet. You can kind of see the different pieces on that. It has been appraised, and the Woodman Land Development Corporation has agreed to the appraisal price for the total of 0.85 acres, and that's broken up in 2 parts for permanent right-of-way, or for right-of-way permanent easements and temporary construction easements. So that's in the amount of $134,600. Our next Black Forest Road one, and I'm hoping everyone was able to digitally get the addendum to the agenda, is for the construction contract for Black Forest Road. You know, when your packets were first put out, you had some blanks put in there. You should see that it was updated. The city received 4 bids for the Black Forest Road construction. The apparent or the intended awardee is Wildcat Construction. They had a bid price of $20,740,628.15. Our engineer's estimate for this project was $21.6 million. So you can see that they're about 900,000 or 4.1% below. You can see that our other respondents were above, and on the high end, 25.2% above. I will mention there will be a major construction change order that we'll be adding to this contract at some point in time, and that maybe make it part of that difference. We will have some channel restoration work that is triggered by this road project that is still going through development, but it will be done at the same time. But just to give you a heads up on that. But anyway, we're excited to have one contractor that has done a lot of really good work for the city, and in a price that's commensurate with what we would expect with the engineer's estimate. Any questions there?
Gail, this is Larry. What is the estimated construction timetable for this project?
So, yeah, that's interesting, Larry. So we've been saying 2 years. So we would expect it to, they'd be getting notice proceed in March. We would anticipate them wrapping up by the end of 23. We would actually, to be realistic, we're going to have allow their contract to extend into 24, but really anticipating that we have substantial beneficiary use of the road by the end of 23. There may have to be some final restoration and cleanup into 24, into spring and 24 as we push on to that. I will also mention, this is one thing I was going to bring up later, an announcement. We've got notice this week about some utility supply chain issues that could also have a negative impact, not just on Black Forest Road, but some of the other projects we're anticipating bidding here in the next couple months. So we're closely monitoring the potential schedule impacts.
All right, thank you.
And the last Black Forest Road project is to purchase wetland mitigation credits. So as part of the project work, we have an impact or disturbance to 0.43 acres of wetlands. We've been looking at different options and talking with the Corps and our consultants on this. And you can see the analysis in the memo that we feel like the best course of action is to purchase wetland credits from the Maria Lake Mitigation Bank. This contract would allow us to purchase the required mitigation of 0.9 acres for the amount of $170,000.
Gail, this is Anne.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain that about how you buy the mitigation and then you can pollute somewhere else or something? I don't understand that.
Well, I would say that we're not polluting, right? We're just
No.
displacing the
Place-
wetlands as they are today. So as part of, anytime you have any more than 0.1 acre of disturbance to an existing wetland area, you're required to do some kind of mitigation. And typically, the minimum mitigation requirement is a 2-to-1 ratio, and that was what was established by the Corps in this particular case. So when you do that, you have the ability to really, in any project, you have the ability to do two things. One is to find another spot on your site if it's the right conditions where you can reestablish wetlands. So if there had been an appropriate place to reestablish wetlands, we could have done so and put 0.9 acres in and gone through this 3 to 5 year establishment process to make sure that they were going to take hold. We could also have gone and found an offsite location within the same basin and done the same thing. And if it was the appropriate condition, and establish at least the 0.9 acres that would be monitored for a 3 to 5 year period till they were acceptable to the Corps. One of the other things that happens, because this happens to projects all the time, right? I mean, you can have, if it's in proximity to a jurisdictional body of the US, but it may it's a ditch line. This happens frequently. You know, it gets counted as a regulatory wetland. There's some areas that they've established what's referred to as a wetland bank, and Maria Lake has a wetland bank where they've started to grow and expand this wetland area and establish what they refer to as credits. So when jurisdictions like the city of Colorado Springs have an impact, we're able to go buy credits to basically offset the disturbance of the wetlands that will be impacting with the project.
Where is Maria Lake?
Let me see if I can grab you a map here real quick. So, Maria, shoot, I can't get it to come up correctly. And I actually don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
I was just curious. I don't want to delay everybody, so that's all right. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Other questions?
Do we have any other questions or comments for Gail on item number 1 through 8 of the projects that she has presented?
This is Scott Barnhart. I move to approve all of the City of Colorado Springs items as presented.
This is Joan, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Scott to approve items 1 through 8 as presented by Gail, and a second by Joan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do we have anyone opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, next item up is El Paso County. Jennifer had a conflict today and won't be available until about 2 o'clock. So if it's all right with the committee, I will go ahead and present this item. And unless there's some objection to it, we can still go ahead and vote on it. I think Jennifer has laid out the project pretty well, and a lot of written up on this. So I'll go ahead and present this in my second hat, I guess you might say, as the El Paso County Highway Advisory Chairman. And so I'll present this for Jennifer. What we have here is a contract amendment and purchase order in the amount of $157,474 for the South. Now on here it says project name, but in her verbiage it's more identified as South Academy Project. and the existing vendor is AECOM, and this will be a capital project. The scope of this work for the $157,474 is for additional property acquisitions that are related to the South Academy project. Some environmental engineering services. Also additional test holes, which on projects like this, you're constantly having to do test holes to make sure that your soils are good as far as where you're working at. Like I say, on page 38 through 39, Jennifer has laid out in verbiage, relative to this project, which is coming up on the screen now. And like I say, it's the South Academy project. It is a major project, but it's moving right along. So I will open it up for discussions or questions. Does anyone have any questions about this project and this contract amendment that has been requested?
Larry, this is Joan.
Yes.
I would move a recommendation of the county's project as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
This is Dave
I'll
Zelenos.
second.
I can second.
Okay, we have a motion from Joan to approve this project in the amount of $157,474 to AECOM for additional, and this is a contract amendment number 3, and this is for additional services on the South Academy project. We have a second from David Zelenak. All in favor of this project, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have anyone opposed? All right, that contract administration is passed unanimously. Now, in Jennifer's package, she did have some additional information on property acquisition status report. This is just for information, but it gives you an idea of some of the projects and what the statuses are on project acquisitions. So that is just the information. All right, next item. Pprta contracts for engineering cost estimates. Rick, do you want to cover this, or
Yes.
how do you want to?
Yes,
handle
please,
this?
to get it started, and then I'll turn it over to Gail to amplify.
Okay,
As the committee will recall, the board has approved the concept of using Pprta admin funds to contract with engineering firms to conduct cost estimates for the Pprta 3 proposed capital projects. And at their meeting of October 13, the board approved a figure of $500,000 to be initially available out of what is the full amount that's available is $1,027,968. But the board approved an initial $500,000 and to be allocated to the 5-member governments to be available to them to propose engineering firms that they prefer via an RFP process for Pprta to then approve those engineering firms and their fees to do the cost estimating task. The city of Colorado Springs share based on population, which was the board directive, their share of the $500,000 was $348,657, and El Paso County's initial share was $147,256. So the city began their process first. They generated RFPs for 3 engineering firms. They forwarded those RFPs to me to send out to the firms, since this these have to be contracts with the PPRTA, although the member government will handle the management of the task once the contracts are approved. So the city requested or sent those RFPs. I sent them out to the 3 city ones came back. They're in Gail's memo that's attached. Basis Partners, Kinley Horn, and NV5. Their fees to do their work for cost estimating a total of 17 potential PPRT 3 projects is $325,230.59. Then on the county also started an RFP process, but they picked a single firm, Felsberg, Holt, and Ulevig, and sent the RFP to me. I sent it out to Felsberg, and they sent back a proposal in the amount of $144,805, which is within the county's allocation of that initial $147,256. So both of these are within the board approved budget of $500,000 for this program. The Gail will amplify on the process and advocacy in just a second, but the bottom line is that the city staff, county staff, and PPRTA staff are recommending that the CAC approve a positive recommendation to the board for approval of the 4 engineering cost estimate proposals and their associated contracts with Basis Partners, Kinley Horn, NV5 for the city, and Felsberg for the county. Gail, your turn.
Okay, great, Rick. You did cover a lot of ground for me, but as Rick mentioned in our informal RFPs that Rick sent out, we originally sent 7 projects to each of the 3 firms for a total of 21. And these are projects that were kind of emerging to likely be PPRTA 3 candidates. Once we received the proposals back and as the process of determining our projects is continuing on, we actually decreased that number from 21 to 17. So that 21 to 17 projects. Of those, Basis Partners would be awarded 7, Kinley Horn would be awarded 6, and NV5 would be awarded 4. This project's making up those 17 projects. So we'll be requesting CAC's recommendation for approval to the board for those 3 contracts amount that Rick already went over. I will add one more thing. At the last board meeting, the board did give the city permission where we could, if we go through the second round of this RFP process, where we could have up to another $150,000. And so we'll anticipate another round of this hopefully next month, if we can get get the proposals back in time.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question about this, these contracts.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, just going through the package here. Can you refresh my memory on what those projects are? I believe it may have been introduced, but it's eluding me right now. Is that in the packet, or was that one of the separate memos?
Yeah, so I don't believe that the actual projects were listed in there. So Carlos, since I know you've been familiar with what's going on with CTAB, you know, all those projects are being considered. We've gone through without the bridge projects and done the initial vetting of how we would get the cost estimates. So several of those projects are being considered, have other contracts associated with their development, and we are getting cost estimates from multiple sources. These 17 are ones where we don't have another contract mechanism in place to really get a cost estimating service. So for example, the Kinley Horn contract, they have the Fillmore Street widening for Monument Creek to Cascade. They had the Fillmore Street bridge widening basically from I-25 with those trail connections. They would have the Northeast sub area study, the Cottonwood Trail connection at Union. So those are their 4. I knew somebody was gonna ask me this, Carlos, that's why I brought the list.
You are reading my mind now, I think. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I believe it had been presented. I just wanted to refresh my memory. You may have covered a lot of this, but things are moving fast, and I just wanted to get the latest and greatest.
No,
Of those
problem.
17 contracts, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so those were the 4. The 6 that go to Kinley Horn would be the Shelton Road bike lanes, they're from Galley to Pikes Peak. The 2 Old Ranch Road improvement projects, the ones from Cordera Crest to Milam, and the others from Voyager Parkway to the Kettle Creek Bridge. They also have the Stetson Hills extension there from Mark Shuffle to Luther. The Fontaine Boulevard improvements from Rolling View to Sleepy Meadow, and the Templeton Gap grade separation at Nevada. And I will mention Kinley Horn under a different contract is actually also doing cost estimates for the 4 North Nevada improvement segments that we've been discussing through CTAB. Just which is why it made sense for them to pick up that Templeton Gap crossing. And then Basis Partners has the Cascade to Mark Dabbling connection, the Dublin Boulevard extension from Peterson Road to Mark Shuffle, the Mesa Road improvements from Fillmore to Uinta, the 30th Street corridor improvements from Mesa Road to Garden of the Gods Road, the Black Horse Road widening from Research Parkway to Old Ranch Road, the Interquest and Voyager Parkway multimodal reconfiguration, and the 8th Street improvements, US 24 to Fountain Creek.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a couple of more follow-up questions?
Sure.
Yeah, if you can be so kind to send that list out, I certainly.
Carlos, I was just thinking the same thing. I was going to ask Gail if she could send that list that she just went through to Rick, and then Rick can send it out to all the members of the committee.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And my follow-up question is really for El Paso County. They're included with this contract, this analysis as well. Is that correct?
Now, they do have a separate contract with, let's see.
Oh, so I'll just go ahead and wait then. I'll ask my question then as to what, I thought this might have been a joint set of contracts that coordinating between the city of Colorado Springs and El Paso County.
It's actually in your packet, Carlos. There's actually 2 separate contracts. There's one for the city, and then there's also one for El Paso County. And that's where Rick was referring to earlier for El Paso County of $144,805 that they're looking at. And then the city, of course, has their number for their projects that they've listed.
Yeah, well, I was saying perhaps, and I'll be honest, I was just confused on that. I saw 17 capital projects there, and I guess I thought they were through El Paso County, but those are a different set of 17. So we have 17 for the city and 17 for the county.
No, we have 17 for the city. Gail, is that correct? And I think from reading Jennifer's material, it looks like just one. Well, she didn't really list any projects as far as what that contract amount would be covered under.
According to her memo, she also has 17 projects covered with the Phillipsburg contract of $144,805.
Okay.
Just a coincidence, 17 for each city and the county.
Yeah, it was just a coincidence, but since they were not listed, I thought maybe they were, we split out the contracts, but it was a consolidated set of contracts through the PPRTA. So I was just trying to clarify that, but yeah, it'll be the same question. I tell you what, why don't I let you present that and I can ask my question about El Paso County.
And, we can ask Jennifer to do the same thing, Carlos, is to send the list that's proposed under the $144,000 contract to Rick so it can be distributed to the members of the committee.
Okay, thank you so much. And if I can just make one follow-up comment to, and I'll try to be quick here. This kind of discussion has been going before the city CTAB about the non-motorized components and our opportunities to go after matching funds or grants and other opportunities for funding that's outside the PPRTA. I just wanted to take this opportunity, and this is, again, I've spoken with the various folks in the trails and outdoors community. I'm just going to encourage El Paso County in particular to collaborate with the city of Colorado Springs to address our urban trails network, particularly with the emphasis on our urban infill or enclaves within for El Paso County. I'm thinking like Cimarron Hills, Falcon, the area like the Midland Corridor, which incidentally will be a corridor area. It's a trail that goes through Manitou Springs and No Man's Land. And so there's a lot of several jurisdictions there. I'm not getting that warm fuzzy that our El Paso County parks in particular is coming forward with non-motorized trails for PPRTA 3. They may be doing that, but I haven't been able to confirm that. So it's really absence of information is making me a little nervous here. So I just wanted to pass this on to the HAC and our member governments here. This is really the opportunity for PPRTA to solve regional transportation issues, and in particular, like I said, the non-motorized trails. City of Colorado Springs is moving forward with its capital projects from our Parks Department. I'd like to see the same thing for the El Paso County Parks to put something on our PPRTA related to non-motorized trails. So that was my soapbox. Just want to encourage you guys, and I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Carlos, just to follow up on that, at our El Paso County HAC meeting, Susan Davies came and gave us a short presentation, to the same effect of what you just discussed. And Jennifer agreed that she was going to meet with Susan and go over, what the county does as far as trails and that go. As Jennifer indicated, in a lot of their projects, they're road projects. Yes, they're just a road project, to what you or I may look at. But they also try to include a segment of trails, like, for example, Hodgen Road. When they rebuilt Hodgen Road, they put nice, they can be pull-off lanes, they can be bike lanes, whatever. But before that was rebuilt and those paved shoulders were put on there, there was really no bike lane or anything like that along there. And what Jennifer has indicated, at our meeting and to Susan, is that they try to include those type of things wherever they can when they're doing their road projects. Unfortunately, the county doesn't have a dedicated trail or park fee like what the city does. So they have to come up with, the ways they can to get to the same point that you're talking about, is try to emphasize trails and access to different parts of the city. Does that help you a little bit on where the county sort of stands? It's not like they're, just ignoring the issue. They are actively trying to, deal with the issue within the confines of, what they have within El Paso County.
Yeah, I'll follow up. Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, there's some feedback there. Just to respond to that again, I've been fairly silent on this for the last several meetings on this question of what's going to be on the PPRTA 3 list. And there are very specific trail components, or urban trails. And it's not just bike lanes. It's not just our on-street bike network. It's also our off-street urban trails, which helps take cars off the road. I'm thinking specifically like the Sand Creek Trail, or maybe some of over in Falcon, there is the Rock Island Trail. There are opportunities I've heard for the Longs Ranch Road to get up Butte Pass. And of course, the Midland Trail, which crosses several jurisdictions there. Having just a general, we'll address it is good, I think, but I was looking for something more discrete or specificity with our trails, and to have that on the PPRTA 3 ballot. And even if it's a B list item, it actually presents an opportunity for matching grants through our various state and federal agencies that are helping us build our non-motorized urban network. What I'm saying, what I would like to see, yes, I think things are moving in the right direction. But I'd like to see some meat on the bones here, and let's see if we can name some trails like the Sand Creek Trail in Cimarron Hills, which is a county enclave. That's the kind of things I'm looking at. And yes, by the way, I have been talking with Susan Davies. That's who I was referring to there. We'd just like to see a little bit more. And by the way, the clock is ticking. The ballot measure will be going to the voters here in November, and we've got to kind of get this list wrapped up, I would think, within the next several months, 2 to 3 months. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know the city of Colorado Springs is going to be approving their list or going before city council. I believe it's next month. So we've got to get working here. Anyways, thank you, Mr. Tobias. I appreciate that.
All right. Gail, got a question for you. Should we make a motion to approve both the city contracts for engineering cost estimate and also the county cost estimate as one proposal?
I think yes, you could make it in one motion. However, I think they should be mentioned separately because the city actually has 3 separate contracts as outlined in our memo, and the county would have one. But I know Jennifer wants to move ahead with her cost estimating efforts, and we really need to get those aligned. So when we start applying the fiscal constraints to the projects we'd like to bring forward, that we have the best data available to make recommendations to our prospective boards and councils moving forward.
All right, with those comments then, yes, Rick, go ahead.
I think from a procedural standpoint, since Jennifer Irvin won't be available to present and explain her one contract with Felsberg, Holt, and Ulevig until 2 o'clock, which is about 13 minutes away, you could either postpone this entire vote until Jennifer Irvin joins the meeting, or you could vote to approve the 3 city contracts by themselves right now, and then come back to the one county contract after 2 o'clock. Just procedural options.
All right, thank you. I think the best thing to do is go ahead and let's see, what did we get from Scott? I'm prepared to approve both now. Oh, so Scott is saying that he would be for approval for both of them. Well, we can do that, but I think both Gail and Rick had a good point, is that I think we should approve 2 separate contracts. Number one, I'd like to get a motion, which I think we just saw from Mr. Barnhart, and I think I just saw a second from Gail, for the approval of the 3 contracts from the city for cost estimating for 17 projects. Do we have any further comments or discussion?
Larry, it's Joan who seconded.
Pardon?
Larry Richard Robertson. I think what Rick laid out, I recommend we approve. There should be a motion out there, I believe, for approving the city, because Gail was here to explain it. I don't have any problem with the city proposals, and I would like to see that approved. But I think we should wait and till Jennifer arrives and vote separately on the county, and Jennifer may have some additional explanation or remarks.
And I agree with you, Richard. All I've got on the table right now is a motion to approve the 3 contracts that the city of Colorado Springs has for 17 projects that Gail has presented. Scott Barnhart, I believe, moved for approval for that. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes.
And let's see, who was second on that? Was that you, Joan?
Joan,
think Larry froze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Joan, did you approve?
Yes,
or
I
do a second
seconded.
for the approval?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve from Scott for the 3 contracts and 17 projects for cost estimating from the city of Colorado Springs, and a second from Joan. Do we have any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you again.
As the board chair, I will take it upon myself to put this cost estimating from the county on hold until we have Jennifer available online to further explain it before we take a vote on that. Does anyone have a
Larry,
issue
it's
with doing it
Joan.
that way?
Larry,
Yes, yes.
it's Joan. Does anyone have an issue with the counties?
Well, Richard Robinson asked earlier, and I'm not sure, you had sort of dropped off. He has asked that we hold off on doing that, this particular contract, until Jennifer is available to where she can further explain and also give us an idea of some of the projects that will be covered by this.
Okay, so Richard has questions about it?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
So like I say, I will defer this particular one until we have Jennifer available. All right. Next item up. Is item 7A, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services Report.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metropolitan Transit with your monthly transit report for the month of December. So for our local fixed route services, we provided nearly 124,000 rides for December. Service ran 30 out of 31 days. So the trifecta of continuing COVID, nationwide operator shortage, and our service reductions due to all of that, it still is having an impact on our ridership. So even though we were up almost 4% from December of 2020, we're still down quite a bit from December of 2019. You know, there are some good signs. Our contractor has been having some success with recruiting fairly large class sizes for new operators, and some of them are getting out on the road. And you know, we just recently, within the last several weeks, we've been able to go from a Saturday level service during weekdays to kind of a modified weekday service. So things are looking up, and we hope that they continue to go in that same direction. For our ADA paratransit service, we provided a little over 8,100 trips in December of 2021. It's about 59% up from December of 2020, but still down from December of 2019. For our taxi choice option, you know, this did recently restart. We provided about 115 trips in December, but well down from where we were in 2019. And then finally, for our van pool services, we operated 7 vans in December and still have several vans on hold. Provided 37 customers with 731 trips So it's an increase of almost 20% from December 2020, but still down quite a bit from December of 2019. And finally, on the last page, just a project update. We're about ready to release our spring service change proposal and hold another virtual public process. The items that we're proposing to implement at the end of April will be restructuring Route 23. So currently Route 23 operates from the Citadel Mall, out Galley to Peterson Road, to Constitution, and up the Tut and Powers corridors before traveling on Barnes and ending up at Academy and Austin Bluffs by Morning Sun there. So we're proposing to split this service into two routes. So the northern segment from Morning Sun to Tut and Constitution will remain as Route 23. And we're also going to be deploying 2 of our new battery electric buses on that segment of the route and increasing frequency from 60 minutes to 30 minutes. And then the southern part of the route from South Carefree to the Citadel Mall will be called Route 24. And the other item that we're proposing, normally we operate Sunday service on Memorial, Independence, and Labor Days. We're proposing to operate regular service. Memorial Day and Labor Day are always Mondays, so we'll operate a regular weekday service on those days, and then whatever day Independence Day falls on, we'd operate that same appropriate service on that day. Really what we found is, our customers, many of them normally don't have off on those holidays. So they're kind of penalized by a Sunday level service because we just don't operate as much service on Sundays. So this is something that's been asked for some time, and it's kind of a high impact improvement that we can make for not a whole lot of money. So we're looking forward to that. I'll have a report back next month. As I mentioned, the virtual public process that we hold, we've been doing these now for several years due to COVID, and actually the comments that we get and the numbers of comments and the quality comments that we get have been really good with a virtual public process, because our customers can view our proposal by video and take the time to write in their comments and submit them. And so we get a lot of good input, and we get a lot more people participating. So I should have more to report next month. We should be done with the public process by then, and we'll be working toward implementing these services at the end of April if they are approved. So thank you, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. Okay, thank you.
Oh, there I am. Brian, this is Larry. Did you just say that you do now have 2 electric buses that are in service?
Well, we actually have four new battery electric buses on our property that we're testing, and we're trying to get ready for service delivery at the end of April. So none of them are operating right now, but we're just going through the testing process and operator training and all of that. But we're getting ready to deploy them at the end of April.
So at the end of April, you hope to have them on the road?
Yes, yes.
Are you going to keep track of them as far as, how reliable they are versus, say, one of the diesel buses that you have?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. So, this is our kind of what we're considering our pilot program. So we have a lot of operational data on these vehicles, and we'll be tracking their performance. As I mentioned, two of the battery electric buses will be operated solely on Route 23, because that's the way the grant that we were awarded was written. The other 2 battery electric buses will be deployed throughout our system to test their performance on different routes and different environmental conditions or operating conditions. So this is our pilot, and we'll be doing a lot of testing and yeah, seeing how they compare to our diesel buses, and give us a lot of information for, you know, the direction that we go in the future.
So you'll give us an update in the future on how well it's going with the electric buses.
Yes, yeah,
All right, good. Thank you.
sure.
Mr. Chair, Hoover. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I wanted to ask, any update on your downtown terminal?
Now, do we have to put Brian into this position again? I mean, we do this all the time, and we all know what the answer is going to be, right, Brian?
Well, not
Just being
entirely.
facetious.
Not entirely. I do have some good news. So I can give you some good news without really telling you the news, but you know, we will be going to city council later this month to brief council on, you know, the movement so far. And you know, I do want to say we're very close. So as soon as we address council, I believe it's the 22nd of this month, you know, we should be able to make a public announcement. So hopefully this time next month, I can say something. But yeah, we're really close. So if you could hold that question for one more month, that would be wonderful.
You see, I just had a feeling.
But thanks for asking, Rick. Can always count on you for that question.
Certainly.
Yeah, if it isn't Rick, it's me asking the question, so. All right, we'll look forward to next month and see
Yeah.
what you've got.
Yeah, but thank you all for your interest, and yeah, can't wait to announce that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Brian? All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing, City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Yes, Mr. Tobias, this is Gail Sturter with City of Colorado Springs. This is an informational item, and the change order log, our active real estate purchases, and an update on upcoming property acquisitions are provided in your packet, and I'm available for questions as needed.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Gail on these reports that are in your packet? All right, hearing none. We have another item from Gail on project right-of-way updates.
Yeah, and again, I'm available for questions. The memo is in your packet.
Hearing no questions, we'll move on. That's the easements, which there's no questions on. All right, next item up.
Mr. Chair, this is Rick.
Yes,
Should we see if Jennifer Irvin is on to go back to her item before we jump into 7C maintenance of effort report?
we can. I haven't seen anybody else come on from the number of participants, but we can ask to see if Jennifer's on.
Nope, she has not joined yet.
Okay, so she's not on yet, Rick.
Okay, so maintenance of effort reports. I'll start this off. The establishing IGA requires includes the requirement of the maintenance of effort provision, which says that the PPRTA funds shall not be used as substitute for or reduce Colorado Springs funding for the existing transit system or any member government to substitute for their non-RTA maintenance activities. So February of each year is the time for the presentations. They are all in the packet. I have checked that the 2004 base year figures that each of the 5 previous member governments have used are correct, that matches what we've been using the whole 17 years since 2004. And so this is before the committee to ask any questions of the entity presentations, and then if the committee is satisfied that the 5 and now 6 member governments are in compliance with the maintenance provision, then to make a motion to the board saying such. So with that, I'll stand down and see if there's any questions that the CAC members have for any of the member governments and their reports.
This is Joan. Larry? Hello?
Yes, I just unmuted. Go ahead, Joan.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Since there doesn't seem to be any discussion, I would recommend the maintenance of effort reports be recommended to the board as presented.
Do I have a second for that motion from Joan?
Greg Gooding, second.
I'm sorry, who did that second?
Greg Gooding.
Oh, okay, Craig, thank you. Do we have any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor to make a recommendation to the board that these reports have been approved by the CAC? Say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the motion has been approved unanimously. All right, next item is PPRTA member government's use of the 2021 Budget Amendments Fund. Rick, do you want to cover this a little bit on
Yes,
what we're
please.
looking at here?
Yes. At last month's board meeting, the board directed the 5 member government staff to submit memos regarding the use of the additional funds provided to the member governments via the 2 budget amendments in 2021. By the time I was assembling the packet, I had memos from 4 of the 5. A supplemental from the county was received, and I forwarded it to the CAC from Jennifer Irvin, explaining how she used or is planning to use the additional funds from the 2 budget amendments in 2021. So those 5 now are before you for questions. This is just an information item.
Do we have any comments or questions concerning these letters? All right. Hearing none, we can, this is like Rick says, this is just for information only. So we will move on to the next item, which is 8A, report of recent board actions.
As usual, this is the highlights memo of what happened at the board meeting last month. The highlight, of course, is the selection of the chair and the vice chair of the PPRTA board. So the chair has to be from a county director. So the board selected Holly Williams as the board chair for this calendar year. And the vice chair on the board has to be from a City College Springs director, and the board selected Randy Helms. And they again selected me to be the board secretary for the calendar year 2022. All of the board directors from 2021 were reappointed by their respective member governments plus the town of Callahan appointed Mayor Pro Tem Roland Gardine to be Callahan's PPRTA Board Director. So that was the highlight. Let me look at the rest. The board approved a clean matrix minus the maintenance effort base year issue that's still under discussion, and the reorganization of the CAC, which is the next item on your agenda today. The board also approved a PPRT3 revenue estimate of 150 million plus inflation per year, plus inflation for a total of a little over 1 billion for the member governments to use in PPRTA3. And everything else was pretty routine. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Rick. Next item we have is, as Rick indicated, a reorganization of the CAC membership since Callahan is being added to the organization. So we have several proposals that have been made as far as the makeup of the CAC, got the wrong group in here. So what I'd like to do is just have Gail give an overview of what they were looking at as far as their reorganization goes. I can give an overview of what the El Paso County HAC came up with, and then we can sort of open it up to discussion. We also have a proposal from our chair, Jim. So with that, just briefly, Gail, do you want to make some comments about this?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Jessica, would it be possible for you to allow me to share my screen?
Sure, just 1 second.
While Jessica is doing this, I will preface that I'm just reporting out on the option that the city CTAB members made to the CAC. So I will go through and do the initial presentation, and then I would encourage the city's CAC members to expand on it. One, if I didn't get it correct, or if there's other things they want to say. But as you can see before you, there's a color-coded table that really showed the jurisdictions on the far left column. And then the yellow column shows how it's currently made up. The green would indicate what we're recommending for the addition of Callahan. And then the blue would be if there were future members. Overall, in general, the CTAB didn't feel like adding another CTAB member to CAC was the right thing to do, that we should really look at the overall makeup. But they also liked the number of 21, didn't really want to grow any larger than that 21. So we took a step back and looked at, well, what makes sense for the makeup moving forward. So, and we also wanted to keep the direction that at least City Council had made, which is to have a proportionate recommendation or representation with the addition of new member governments. So we were recommending both the city and county maintain 3, and then our smaller jurisdictions that were in the PPRTA before Callahan's addition, Manitou, Rayman, Green Mountain Falls, dropped from 2 to 1, and then add Callahan's 1. We thought keeping the at-large members were at 5 made sense, and really using that at-large alternate as the flex, as you would, I guess that's how I'd like to best describe it, that as Manitou and Raymond, Green Mountain Falls lost one of the representatives, they gave one to Callahan, but they got 2 at-large alternate positions. And that way, and I think, Joan, you were just talking earlier that you were going to give up your spot. I think we would still want you to be taking up one of those at-large positions or the at-large alternate positions, just wouldn't be the designated representative for Green Mountain Falls. Again, with the same makeup, if there's happens to be another entity that joins, you know, if they wanted to give another option, that new entity you can see down there in row 11 would be available. And what would flex again would be that at-large alternate position. You can see in lines 12 and 13, so your voting members as they were before Callahan's addition was 13. Under the proposal would be 15. At future entities, it would go up to 16, but the total body would remain at 21.
Mr. Chair. Hello? Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't actually see Larry on right now. And
What I was suggest, I like your program. The only improvement I would do is I would keep Manitou at 2 and cut the 6 down to 5. Yeah, large alternates to 5 and keep Manitou at 2. Can you pass that on for me?
yes, I think other people can hear you. I think it's just that Larry's not on.
Okay.
And I think I'm the only one that has my mic unmuted right now.
Oh, okay.
This is Rick Sonnenberg. While we're waiting on Larry to rejoin the meeting, let me be so bold, since I've had extensive conversations with Jim Godfrey. Let me present Jim's scenario and his rationale, and then Larry, when he comes on, he can present the hack third option. So Jim Godfrey's rationale for keeping Manitou at 2. Can everybody hear me?
I can, Rick.
Okay.
Yes.
His rationale for keeping Manitou at 2 is because they've had 2 residents attending from their city to the CAC routinely, and they've had excellent attendance. And their population is, although not anywhere close to the city and the county, is significantly higher than Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Callahan. So he's, as you can see on my original cover memo, he's agreeing that Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Callahan would drop to 1. He'd like the at-large regulars to stay at 5 and the alternates to stay at 4. So there'd be 16 voting members. He's okay with an even number, and I know I think CTAB and maybe the hack would like there to be an odd number just to prevent tie votes. But I think Jim's position was tie votes, if they've ever happened in his experience, it's maybe once in his 4 or 5 years of being on the CAC. So he did not see the necessity of having an odd number of voting members, because as you can see from his total of 20, when you take out the alternates, that would be 16 voting members. So that's Jim's rationale that he shared with me, and in his absence, I'm sharing with you. So now if Larry is on, he can present the hack option and the rationale behind it.
If I might, Rick, one comment. I think under the new situation we have with I am opposed to having Manitou remain in two with two people. I think it should be reduced to one. And then if the board wants to have a second representative from Manitou, it should come from the at-large. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Hey, this is Ryan Bissiger. I agree with what Richard just stated, that while Manitou maybe has shown up routinely, I don't think that it's representative of their population base. If that's a rationale we're using for how we split up the CAC members.
Rick, this is Ed Dills. I have another question as well.
Okay.
As far as Manitou goes, I understand the population's not the greatest, but what's their contributions financially? I would imagine they've got a fairly large tax base that's coming into the overall situation. And I can envision that being a reason for two, more so than the population, if there's a lot of numbers coming from them.
I don't have that number off the top of my head. That might be something Bev would have to research. Bev, are you on? So
Yeah, I'm on. The last time I researched this, it was very close to their population percentage. Now you have to understand the smaller ones are nowhere near their population percentage.
Yeah. So in comparison to say Rama, Callahan, Green Mountain Falls, they're actually contributing a substantial amount of money for their causes, so to speak.
The PPRTA is, although it's a regional government, so I don't want to get involved in that discussion, but I did research for Manitou Springs so we could figure out how much transit they could possibly get, for their downtown shuttle. And it was a good research project and it really came close. It was really where their population percentage was at that time. And I mean, I know things change from time to time, but that was the situation.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a good point that Ed made. And it also, I would think, would lead us toward letting them stay at two because of the increased amount of donations they make to RTA. And the fact that they're placed in a position where they're interacting with the two big players a lot more because of just their physical location. So I still contend that we stay at 21, give them two, and cut the alternate back to 5.
I personally like Rick or Jim's idea.
Could I say something? I'm probably going to go off because Green Mountain will get one, which is fine. But I'd just like to say the rural areas, regardless of how many people or how much money they contribute, that's what this thing is called, Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. And I'm not too familiar with the plains out where Joan is and so on, although I've driven through it a lot going to Kansas. But the mountains, the mountain road, the main one, 24 up into the mountains of El Paso County is important. And Carlos has also mentioned alternate ways to get up Ute Pass. That's my only concern. Don't neglect the rural counties. Thank you.
Rick, this is Larry.
Yes.
For some reason, I dropped off and I was not able to get back in, so I've gone ahead and called back in.
Great. I think we're at a point where if you want to cover the hacks, option number 3 and the rationale. I think that's where we are. In your absence, I covered Jim Godfrey's option number 2. Gail's already covered CTEB's option number 1. So if you'll cover number 3, and then you can invite more discussion.
Okay, I'm trying to paper on that. Now the option that we were looking at and some of the discussion we had is that and I understand what was just said a minute ago about the smaller towns, but on the other hand, if you look at the number of people that are in those towns and the amount of tax dollars that are being returned to them, it is a small proportion compared to Colorado Springs or El Paso County. And then sort of Manitou comes in the middle, and then Rama, Green Mountain Falls, and Callahan are, smaller entities. And as such, I guess what I'll do, Rick, is sort of open it up for discussion with people to see what their thoughts are. I think we're getting close as far as what we're looking at on this.
Does everybody have the hack option number 3, which dropped not only Manitou, the Rama, Green Mountain Falls, Callahan, dropped all of those to 1, kept the at-larges at 5, but increased the current 4 at-large alternates to 5. So the hacks option number 3 is 15 voting members and 5 alternates for a total of 20. So just wanted to be sure that the details of that option were covered. So now Larry's invited discussion on the 3 options.
This is Joan.
Go ahead, Joan.
I preferred the option that Gail presented. Just my thought.
And that would be 3, and then Manitou, Rama, Green Mountain, Callahan 1, at large 5, and at large alternates 6, for a total of 15 voting members and 21 total.
Correct.
Yeah, Larry, this is Ed.
Yes.
Based on what I've heard, I like Jim Godfrey or Rick Hoover's version the best, where we can keep Manitou at 2 and do the shuffling with the alternate. That would be my preference.
Okay, I'm starting to keep a tally. I have 3 columns, 1, 2, and 3. So as CAC members speak up, I'm putting you under a column 1, 2, or 3.
So I guess I would be a 2 then, if that's the one you presented for Jim.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I'm at.
All right. Rick, I naturally prefer what the hack came up with, but I would join with the city's proposal. I strongly do not agree with Jim Godfrey's proposal.
Rick Hoover, I go with 2.
This is Ann Nichols. I would go with 2 as well.
Mr. Chair, this is Carlos. Can I go ahead and speak? Can I be recognized?
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, I think we're splitting hairs, but I do favor 2 for keeping Manitou Springs at 2. And let me just give you the rationale behind that is because Manitou Springs is really part of our urban fabric along the Highway 24 corridor with Colorado Springs, of course, unincorporated El Paso County, and in Manitou Springs. And so its land use as far as transportation, like I said, the Midland Trail or the Midland Corridor, Manitou Avenue, we just came through and did the WAP project, the West Avenue Action Plan. That was the big PPRTA project. So Manitou Springs is very close to the west end of Colorado Springs. And so I favor having more representation there just because of the because of the collaboration between the member governments here. I don't see that as much as, don't take any offense, Callahan, here, but I don't see as many of those types of collaborations between, let's say, Colorado Springs and Callahan, we're just because of the geography of Manitou Springs, it really should have a little, just that extra person I think would be helpful. But again, I could go either way, but I do like to. Just wanted to point that out.
Come on, Vicky, come on.
If I may.
Yes,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, our last night at the trustees meeting, number 1 was the selection of the trustees of Green Mountain Falls. I guess just the one thing that I would throw in to confuse matters a little further is that in terms of utilization of the transportation network, I think Green Mountain Falls has a lot of use, particularly on the weekends. I mean, you all should have been up here in the summer of 2020 when everybody was heading out of Colorado Springs into the mountains, and we had people parked on every semi-horizontal surface in the town so they could hit the mountains for hiking. So yeah, our transportation at certain times at least gets used out of all proportion to the population of the town. But now, as I say, my instructions are that number 1 is the one that is preferred by our town government.
Okay.
Can I still vote since I haven't been taken off? I also like number 1 with Craig. Thank you. This is Ann.
Yeah, and just for your information, as Rick indicated earlier, this has still not been presented to the board, so we will vote on it, but the final, recommendation will actually come from the board.
Of course. Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. We have anyone else that would like to make comment?
So
Hi,
this is,
This is
go
Karen.
ahead.
This is Karen Asplin.
Yep.
It sounds like we're discussing 3 options. And people are calling them 1 and 2 and such, but what I'm looking at just shows 2 options. Neither one of them is numbered, labeled number 1 or number 2. So if we're really selecting among 3 different options, could we show those up here on the screen, please?
The CTEV option that's on the screen now is number 1. The Jim Godfrey option is number 2. And in your packet is the hack option number 3 in yellow. Up to 6 more pages, Jess.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Tamara's voting for number 1 in the chat.
As did Scott. Rick, if you look up a couple comments.
Jess, if you'll keep scrolling another page. There's option 3. Karen, in yellow on the far right. In fact, there's all 3 of them.
Yeah, that has all 3 of them.
Yeah, that has all 3 of them. There it is on page 96, in your packet.
Back to that previous What do you have? That's the easiest one to read. There you go.
Jess, if you'll just leave that page up, that's good. So I have 9 folks voting so far. I have 5 votes for number 1, 4 for number 2. Karen, waiting for your vote. And then there's 5 more in attendance in addition to Karen who haven't voted, because I'm showing there's 15 in attendance today.
Rick,
Those-
this is Karen. I would go with either 1 or 3.
This is Steve Hart, I vote number 2.
And this is Larry. I'll vote for number 3.
Hi, Rick. This is Ryan Bissiger. I'd vote for the C tab option, number 1.
Okay. Karen, I'd really appreciate it if you'd pick one.
Okay, I'll vote for number 1 then.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for number 1. 5 for number 2 is 12. Larry, you're number 3. That's 13. I still need 2 more votes, possibly.
Rick, I don't know if you saw that Tamara and Scott both voted in the chat and they both had option number 1. I don't know if
I
you
did see Tamara. Okay, Scott. Well, that's enough votes. So the number 1 takes it 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 8 for number 1, 5 for number 2, and 1 for number 3. But we need let's see, is that that's a majority of the 15 in attendance. Let's double check attendance. Jess B, is Bruce Colson on?
Don't see a Bruce Colson.
How about Cindy Tompkins?
I do not see Cindy.
Okay, so Jess B, are you counting that there are 15 in attendance?
Let me double check. Yes, that's what I have officially.
Okay, so 8 and 5 is 13 and Larry is 14. Is there one CAC member who hasn't voted yet? If not, then 8 votes is a majority of 15. So option number 1 carries. Larry, do you want to have somebody make a formal vote or that the tally indicates 8 of 15 carries? Do you want to have an official vote?
We can do it either way, Rick. We can either, go with the numbers, which, like you say, that's majority for option number 1, and just go with that.
This is Joan. Just for sake of the record, I would like to make a motion.
Joan, did you vote? I'm not showing you.
Yeah, number 1.
Oh, yeah, you were the first one. Sorry, I'm blind. Yeah, you were the first one voting for number 1. Yep. Okay, so yeah, if somebody would have a formal vote, that'd be nice.
What is your motion then, Joan?
My motion is, after the polling of the CAC members in attendance, option 1 as presented by the city CTAB garnered 8 votes. And therefore that would be the recommendation to go forward.
I will second that, Richard.
Is there any additional discussion or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
All right, who
Nay.
is, how many nays do we have?
Rick Hoover.
Nay.
and Nichols.
Okay, so we have only 2 nays then. So the motion passes with the number that total number that Rick has, and we had 2 noes for the motion. Motion passes. Not unanimously, but the motion does pass.
On the final motion and vote, that would be a 13-2 with 15 in attendance.
Okay? So it'd be 13-2. All right, so the motion passes with a 13-2 vote. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for that discussion. Let me ask you a question, Rick, before we move on to the next item on the concerning Callahan. I did notice that Jennifer did come on. Is she still on, and do we want to have her discuss the contract?
Yes, if she's on.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. First of all, Jennifer, just to let you know, I sort of took it upon myself as the El Paso County HAC chairman to give a presentation on your El Paso County capital project on South Academy Boulevard. And so we've covered that one, and that passed unanimously.
Okay, sounds great. I'm not going to extend your time any longer if we have to. If anybody has specific questions about that, I'd happy to answer those. Otherwise, it sounds like it's been covered.
And now the other one we have is the project for $140,000 plus for a contract for cost estimating on projects for the Pprta 3. And the one question that came up was that there was no projects listed, so there was a couple questions as far as before we took a vote. The committee would like to get input from you as far as some of the projects you're looking at, including in that estimating contract.
So we have about 17 projects that we're looking at. We're hoping to pare that down, but some of those include Stapleton Briargate. Some of those include Shoup, Vollmer. We're still working on determining, so we've kind of have a placeholder. I am meeting with the county administrator hopefully next week or in the week after to talk about that. But we've identified that we would do estimates for approximately 17 projects, and those might be adjusted. So we just kind of made sure we had a placeholder so that we could get this going. We did give a anticipated list to the consultant just to make sure that they were aware, but that project list may change. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Well, it somewhat answers the question, and this might be a follow-on with Gail's presentation too. Is the committee has requested a list be sent from you to Rick, so that you can send it, so he can send it to the members, listing those projects that you're looking at. It sounds like we're still a week or so away from when you finalize the list. Is that correct?
I don't think we're at a final list right now. I think I need to meet with the county administrator and get his input. That's going to be, as you know, we have a new county administrator. That's going to be his first opportunity to look at the list, and I'm going to get direction thereof. So I think, and I don't know what Gail's presentation included, but I think once my leadership is ready to share that list, I will certainly do that.
Okay. Richard, you had a question as far as those projects go. Before we have a vote on this contract, would that satisfy you with what Jennifer said, that, you know, as soon as they get the list finalized, then it will be sent to, you know, Rick, and then it can be, you know, sent out to the members. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and approve the contract for the estimating.
Yes, I think Jennifer has explained it well enough, and I understand she needs to check with the leadership in the county first, and that's fine.
Would you like to make a proposal for approval of that contract?
I would make a motion to approve that contract as submitted by Jennifer.
Second, Joan.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval from Richard and a second from Joan to approve the estimating contract as submitted from Jennifer in El Paso County. Do we have any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, do we have, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that proposal passes unanimously. All right, next item. Okay, we have the draft comprehensive IGA with the town of Callahan. Rick, do you want to go over that just in short detail, or how much detail? I've read it, but I'm not sure, you know, if there's a lot of things in there. I'm not sure if, you know, if there's any problem with it. It sounds like it's straightforward as far as what has been presented before.
Yes, I'll just take a minute on it. In addition to the establishing IGA, we have another set of IGAs with each member government, and they are called the Comprehensive IGAs. They deal with the nitty-gritty of accounting and budget submittals and just day-to-day operation stuff. This one matches virtually identically to the 5 that are in existence with the current member governments that we've had since day one. So this is just pretty much a boilerplate equivalent for Callahan of what the other 5 have. So it was prepared by the Board Attorney Jennifer Ivey and submitted to Town of Callahan Board of Trustees. They've approved it, so now it's ready for CAC and board review and approval. So to me, there aren't any issues. This is just a formality and routine, and Jennifer Ivey and I recommend it to the CAC for a positive recommendation to the board.
Mr. Chairman, this is Richard. I move we approve this.
This is Joan. I'll second.
Do we have any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Approve the draft comprehensive IGA with the town of Callahan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, agenda topics for the next meeting. Do we have any agenda topics that anyone would like to request? Hearing none, I'll move on. I just ask Rick one question. Rick, have I covered everything? Have we got everything covered to this point?
Yes, great job. Good meeting.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Larry. You
next-
did a great job chairing the meeting.
All right, well, thank you. I'm sorry I dropped off. I kept getting a message popped up, and I'm gonna have to call my internet company because it was saying I had an unstable connection. And I'm going, wait a minute, I'm on fiber. Why would I have unstable connection? But
And I
anyway,
got that message as well on mine.
yeah. Do we have any communications that we need to bring forward?
Larry, this is Gail Sturdivant. I have a couple things I want to share, if you don't mind.
Okay. Go
Um,
ahead, Gail.
I did just want to give you an update on where the city is in the development of the capital project list for the PPRTA reauthorization. We had a very good meeting with the city CTAB yesterday. There is a draft list of potential projects that have been scored first by the consulting team that's doing Connect COS, which is the city's transportation master plan, been scored by CTAB. And we have the initial ranking by city staff. We had a very detailed discussion yesterday with our members. The staff is going to be going back and doing some refinement on a couple of the scores based on some input from CTAB yesterday. But we anticipate taking that to a city work session on March 13th. One, I wanted you to be aware of kind of where we are in progression, but two, we have been requested to provide that information that was shared with CTAB to the Gazette. So if you see that out there being published in the near future, I want to let you know that we would prefer to share that information directly with the CAC beforehand. So that is the potential projects and the initial scoring, but not the final list. But I just wanted you to be aware about that.
So it's not the final list then, it's just a proposal.
It's just a proposal. Projects, it's actually just the projects being considered. We currently have them in 4 categories and ranked, and each of those 4 categories by, again, the consultant preparing our transportation master plan, CTAB, and then staff. The initial ranking by staff, and we do have a couple we're going to revisit based on the discussion yesterday. I just feel like being published in the paper, I'm concerned about it being premature communication, but I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of what may be coming and also where we were in our process. One other unrelated topic I just want to share, and I kind of alluded to it yesterday or earlier when I was reviewing the contracts. Yesterday, or over the last couple of days, we've been informed by Colorado Springs Utilities about some pretty serious supply chain concerns that they have. We met with them again this morning to see if there's things we could do to work with them to even pre-order materials, since things are taking 6 months or greater in some cases that are going to be needed for the utility relocations that need to be done as part of our transportation efforts. Just wanted you to be aware, we are looking at the projects in a lot of detail to see if there's going to need to be schedule adjustments, either in pushing back start dates or just extending the overall contract duration with the anticipation of the lead time needed to get those materials, since a lot of times that utility work happens first or early on in the construction process. So those were the 2 updates I have. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Jennifer, would you like to make any comments on where the county is on the PPRTA 3 list that's being developed by your office?
Sorry, I started talking and I was on mute. So we previously had gone to our Highway Advisory Commission and received feedback for draft scoring. We did some draft scoring. That's really very technical scoring. And so we've been working with the city on, developing some joint projects. And we have a very, very draft list. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with Brett Waters, the county administrator, and receiving some direction in regards to how we, the county, want to move forward with that. So that's where we're at. We definitely have used our major transportation corridors plan in developing that list, and then also feedback that I previously have received. And then also just citizen concern. We have not taken ours to our Highway Advisory Commission yet, but anticipate that we will be moving forward with those lists as similar to the city, and being at a point where we can have something for the PPRTA consideration here in the next few months.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just had a question about the community. Thank you, Jennifer. This is Carlos Perez. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know you can't see me when I raise my hand or whatever. I just quick question. Did you have a date in mind that you're going to be taking the capital lists to the Board of County Commissioners? Do you have that? You said next few months. Do you have a firm date, or is it just?
I do not have a firm
ended right
date
now?
yet. I do not have a firm date. I will let you know when I do.
It's good.
Just
Okay.
also, I just would mention, now that I think about it, we have had a lot of coordination with our Parks Department, and also with some outside, with our some representatives from our Parks Advisory Board in regards to trails and those kind of projects. So actually, I just had a meeting today that included Susan Davies. So we are still working on our project list. I would just mention, just please remember, folks, that we just within the last month, finalized the matrix, and then finalized the revenue projections. So we are working very quickly now that we have, a more defined framework for our project list to develop and work through those projects and getting further feedback on those.
Good job. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
This is Rick Sonnenberg. If I could take a second, I'll send out a more formal email, but Gail and Jennifer, as you're developing your timetable for developing your PPRT3 capital projects, consider whether May or June would be optimal for you to present your semifinal or final capital list to the CAC and the board, May or June, which works better for you. So just asking you to plug those options into your timetable.
Thanks, Rick. We're looking at that right now as well.
All right. Do we have any other communications? If none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Oh, Joe.
I have a second.
Second.
There you go, Joe.
All in favor for adjournment, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
I'm not even going to ask if anybody's against it. It's unanimous. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the meeting today. I thought it went very well. And have a good day and evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Larry.